There are so many different things that I could share with you about how the Enneagram has impacted my life personally, but I'll start with something that's pretty basic for my type. So I identify with the number 7 on the Enneagram model, which is often called the enthusiast. And one of the things that is characteristic of this type is their constant movement towards what's fun or pleasurable. And yeah, I can definitely see this within myself. It even has sort of an ADD type of attention or lack of focus, you could say. And there was a stint in my early 20s when I was diagnosed with ADD, not something that I grew up with, but as I dealt with the challenge that I experienced in focusing in my early 20s, I went through a stint where I saw a doctor, was, yes, classified as ADD. I even tried to take the medication for a while, which personally found to be partly effective, but mostly did not like the way that I felt at all. So I did away with that pretty quickly. But then I've always been dealing with what feels like a real challenge to focus my attention, because there's so many things that capture my eye, so many things that I want to do, so many things I get excited about. And so I tend to be very ding, 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 ding. I think it's one of the reasons why meditation has been personally so impactful for me, because it really is about learning to stay. Well, when I started looking at the Enneagram and I was discovering what this focus of attention is really about, I could see that my excitement about this and that and this and that, and my jumping around towards what was pleasurable was really just a strategy to help me avoid pain or discomfort. That moving towards what was pleasurable or fun was my way of not having to feel what felt sad or painful or anxious or fearful or uncomfortable. And while that's the basic mechanism that happens for most of us when we're avoiding, that particular strategy is very strong for my type. And so learning to work with that has been my path. Now, I know that probably doesn't sound very sexy or very interesting. Like, oh yeah, let me find out my Enneagram type so I can learn to be really uncomfortable. But that is the work. So for me, it's really been about learning to slow down and harness my focused attention and open myself up to be with discomfort and pain in a very direct way. And while it may not sound that exciting, I can tell you that there's a tremendous amount of satisfaction and peace that comes from that. What we start to see as we dive into the Enneagram is that we've developed these coping strategies that help us to avoid feeling something. And for me, that's fear, pain. And as long as we're in an avoidance of those things, then that coping strategy stays in place and it really runs the show. But as soon as I developed more ability to be uncomfortable, then my strategies that were designed to keep that away could fall and drop. Like, I don't need to protect myself from that because I have the ability to be with it. And as a result, I experience far greater depth of connection, depth of my sense of connection to myself, to other people, to the reality of what's happening around me, which is far more satisfying than my old strategy of just staying busy and focusing on what is happy or positive. The truth is, life isn't always happy or positive. And there are certain things that are very difficult and very painful. And if I go through my life employing this strategy of distraction and only touching on what's good, then I miss a whole realm of connection and reality that is available to me. So that's just one of the ways that I've personally been impacted. And then there's so much more that I could share with you about that. But that's very fundamental to the type 7. And it's one of the ways that I've been working with that to add greater depth and satisfaction and freedom to my own life. If you're interested in finding out your type and discovering what habitual patterns might be holding you back, then I invite you to reach out. I'd love to do a typing interview with you, to ask you some questions and to help you explore what's the core motivation that's moving you. What are the coping strategies that you're employing? And if they're not working for you anymore, they're keeping you in a limited place, how might you begin to do the work to free yourself and go beyond the confines of your personality into the fullness of who you're meant to be?